Hi guys, I'm Annabelle and welcome to the Maine and Mulberry Her Town podcast. Every Tuesday on Her Town, I'll sit down with women who use their talents to impact their community, sharing candid conversations on relatable topics. Settle in and enjoy filling your cup by simply learning from these women who are thriving while ambitiously chasing dreams. Now I'd like to take a minute to say thank you to our sponsor. Maine and Mulberry Her Town is sponsored by Maureen Frazier, a leading real estate agent with John Green & Company Realtors. With 15 years of real estate experience, Maureen understands what it takes to buy and sell homes in Carterville, Memphis, and across the Mid-South. Maureen moved to Carterville in 1995 and has since dedicated herself to her community. She'll do the same for you every day. Maureen Frazier, Real Estate, Community, Service. Visit soldwithmaureen.com to learn more. That's soldwithmaureen.com. Today's guest is Mollie Walker, City Executive for Landmark Community Bank and native to Carterville, Tennessee. She's a graduate of the University of Memphis and is passionate about her involvement in the community that she lives, serving in a number of organizations including Carterville Young Professionals Ascend Group, Carterville Chamber member, and actively involved in the Carterville Rotary, to name a few. Mollie is also the co-founder of Tennessee Fertility Advocates, and here to share her story of starting a family and beating the odds is Mollie Walker. Mollie, I'm so glad to have you on the show with us today. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last couple of years between me writing for Tour Carterville magazine and chamber luncheons and just being around town. And I am thrilled to finally get the chance to sit down and have this conversation with you today. So let me formally welcome you to the Her Town podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited. Let's dive right in. So in our time together, I know that Carterville is really home, right? Born, raised.
Yeah, I've been here 33 years and absolutely love it. My family and I live near Terra Oaks, and so we went to University of Memphis and decided definitely we got to come back. Like, this is where we want to raise our family. It's where our families live, and Carterville is home.
That is so cool. Talk to me about growing up in Carterville and your family unit. Your maiden name's Darnaby, right?
Right. Yeah. Mollie Darnaby. So really blessed to have my grandparents, our in-laws, my sister and brother-in-law, my family, all really within maybe a 5-minute drive. And that's very, it's just such a blessing, honestly, to be so close to family. Growing up in Carterville was wonderful. We both went to Carterville schools, my husband and I, and we started dating our freshman year of college. And then we've just celebrated our 8th anniversary, which is really exciting.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Oh, that's so great. As a young girl, though, did you kind of always envision being a mom? Were you playing with baby dolls and having that kind of inherent nurturing?
Oh, yes. Like, I loved it. I have a younger brother, and it was just always fun to take care of him. I think there was just something in me. I know the Lord planted at an early age, just a desire to be a mom. And so I'm so blessed to say I have a 5-year-old little girl, Lawson, and a 2-year-old boy named Noah, and they are absolutely precious, similar to your kids.
Oh, thank you. I know it. Kids are the best. They really are. Let's talk about meeting your husband, Taylor. When did that magical moment happen?
Well, we actually met in high school. He was a little bit more reserved than I was. I seemed to have a very extroverted personality.
We
did start dating. Yeah, you would never guess, right? But we started dating our freshman year of college, and I was on the dance team, and he would come to the games and watch. And we instantly just hit it off. You know, we have very opposite personalities, but it really works well for us in our marriage and in everything that we do. Because
isn't it funny how that happens? It's kind of a yin-yang kind of thing, isn't it?
Yes,
my husband and I are that way.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Awesome. So kind of tell us about when you and Taylor, got married. Did you know right away you wanted to have a family?
Yeah, we were healthy. We both got married at 25. We were in shape. I mean, we really didn't see infertility kind of being any issue. I honestly didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And we kind of waited a little bit before we started to have kids. I just really thought it would be so easy. I had no idea of the journey that was to follow that. But
Right.
yes, I mean, the desire was placed. We knew we wanted to have kids. We found a home in Carterville, moved back, and the journey just was a lot more difficult than anything I'd imagined, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Let's talk about what you were saying for a moment. Some women are, very methodical when it comes to starting a family. They've got a plan in place. And then there are some women who kind of let things happen when they happen. What camp would you say that you were in?
So I laugh when you say that because I just think I'm a planner to a T. If it's not on my calendar, it usually might not happen. And I follow the calendar very much.
Yeah.
But I think that the Lord had other plans for us. Obviously, He sees everything that is to come.
Isn't that funny? Usually we make our plans and He laughs at us. Isn't that what they say?
Exactly right. Like, I think He probably was like, yep, nope, not happening that way. But He is so gracious to give us what we need in the right time.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much a planner, but when it came to planning our family, I soon realized I have absolutely zero control over that.
Yeah. So at this point in time, were you working? What was like the work life situation like?
Yeah, so I was actually working at First Horizon Bank, a very large employer here headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. Had a wonderful job, great coworkers, some different mentors at the bank that were true blessing. And thankfully I had wonderful leaders who knew what I was going through.
Okay.
And even though I didn't talk a lot about it at the time, to those that were close to me, I had to. And it affected my mental health. It affected, obviously, my physical health. It just really took a toll on, infertility took a toll on me. And luckily I was, had a great job that was understanding with what I was going through. So I was really thankful for that at the time.
So you and Taylor were married, I guess how many years had you been married? But when you decided, hey, let's start our family, and
it was about, we really, after about the first year, we said, let's start our family.
Right.
Let's try to start. And then a year and a half later, we ended up having to reach back out.
When you had that moment of, hey, something seems not quite right?
I felt like, honestly, Annabelle, when you, as a female, you just kind of know in your gut when something's not right. And I felt from a very early time on that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And looking back now, what I wish I would have told my younger self is you're your own advocate. So the comments that we would get all the time from family and friends, when are you having kids, Mollie? Like, what's the holdup? Why are you waiting? All of these things.
So true. The moment you get married, that it starts, right?
It's right. And the pressure was extremely great, but I really did feel in my heart of hearts something wasn't right. And I saw an OBGYN who is now retired, and they said, we got to wait till after a year before we'll look at anything. And I wish, looking back, Annabelle, that I would have spoken up a little bit sooner, or maybe sought for a second opinion, because it was a lot of time that, there was an issue with ovulation there, and waiting a lot of time isn't going to help the issue. It's a medical issue. So, it all happened in the right timing it was supposed to, but looking back, I wish I would have spoken up or reached out for a second opinion, but I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times it's hard. You have a doctor telling you need to wait, sit on your hands, when everything inside of you is like, I don't want to sit on my hands. I've got something going on. I just know.
Yeah. At least just test it out. I'm like, come on, let's at least test to see if there's something wrong.
Right.
And then that way we knew. It would have been nice, but that's okay.
Yeah. So kind of talk to us, Mollie, when you did wait that year and you went back in and said, hey, things aren't going the way we had planned. What happened?
Yeah. So, long story short, through the time of waiting, I was really blessed to just have a lot of, good support friends near me, but I didn't know many that went through infertility, or at least vocal about it. So that was kind of a struggle. But when I went back to the doctor long story short, we realized I had an ovulation issue and was able to get on a medicine called Clomid, which is a pretty familiar medicine that helps women ovulate. And we actually got pregnant on the first month with that. So it was really exciting. We were so shocked. I remember it like yesterday. We were on a trip and I get the phone call like that my levels were enough to be able to have a baby. Like that was, it helped them that much. And I just remember thinking, this is incredible. Like we're not even pregnant yet, but this is incredible. And then we found out we were pregnant. So it was a huge blessing.
Okay, so you went to the doctor, found out that you cannot ovulate on your own.
Yeah.
And Mollie, if you weren't trying to get pregnant, would you have known that you had this condition?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Probably not. I mean, the main reason for doing that type of blood work is if you're trying to get pregnant, the first step is they want to see where your blood levels are, like where are your ovulation levels, where is that hormone level, is it even possible? So there was a lot of testing that was involved, but
right. But you were able to narrow down and see that was the marker. That was what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't get that lucky off the first try. There can be some side effects with those medications as far as multiple births, really big hormone swings. When it came time for my second child and we started that medicine again, it was really tough on my body, just emotionally draining, honestly. And so there was a lot of factors at play, but very thankful for a successful first pregnancy. But that year and a half, it felt like eternity. And month after month, a negative pregnancy test. And just some months I would feel like, oh my gosh, am I having symptoms? Am I pregnant? And it plays tricks on your mind, and it is an awful thing to go through.
You're absolutely right. When you're in that waiting season, it is, and especially the first one, you just don't know. And everything, you're picking up on all these little signs. Is this it? Is that it?
Right. Absolutely.
I'd love for you to educate us for a minute about infertility, Mollie, for the disease that it is. You were saying that earlier. Help bring awareness to some of our listeners today about infertility. And now it's not always an issue for just the woman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people think about infertility and they think, oh, that's a female issue.
Yeah.
That is such a false statement. I mean, a third of it is women, a third of it affects men. Mm-hmm. And a third of it is unexplained infertility. And so it is really not just a female issue. It's just as much male as it is female. Yeah. And I think it's really important to make sure people understand that.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, this affects a lot of people, right?
Oh, yeah, it sure does. So 1 in 6 individuals are going to experience infertility.
Wow.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah, 1 in 6 will experience some type of infertility. That doesn't mean they need IVF or anything like that, but some type of infertility where they've tried for intercourse for over 12 months.
That's amazing. That's so many people, more than we probably realize, that are in our circles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, they say infertility is the 4th most traumatic life event a woman can go through, equivalent to losing her parents, and I think there are so many other things that come from infertility, like mental, the mental depression that comes along with it, the anxiety, the panics, the PTSD, like of going to an ultrasound and not seeing the baby's heartbeat and having to have a miscarriage. And all of those things are so traumatic. And it is just very, very sad. It is a very hard process, but it is a lot more common than we think. And they say 61% of those going through it don't even tell their family or friends about the struggle. And that breaks my heart, because when I went through it, especially with the first child, I didn't talk a lot about it. I was just really kind of embarrassed, honestly, like was thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, it's not Taylor, it's me. And I didn't want to talk about it. And, I find so much wonderful things have come from sharing my testimony to be able to relate to those, and just the importance of saying, here's where I'm at. Like, this is not just a Mollie Walker issue. Like, this is something I'm sure others have gone through, and I'm here to give any kind of advice and do things a little different.
Did y'all check on Taylor at the same time that you went in to check on yourself?
Yeah, we actually checked on him beforehand. Just because that's where my control thing comes in. And but he was great. Everything was
scheduled that appointment, right?
Yeah, he was fine. And I figured, like, again, I just felt in my heart of hearts like something was not right with my body. And
listen to that. You got to listen to that. And so tell me about your pregnancy with Lawson. Did it go well?
Yeah, I mean, the pregnancy with Lawson was great. I had gestational diabetes, which is just
Yeah.
another factor, but it only really lasts during pregnancy. I have the best OB, Dr. Jason Williams at Memphis OBGYN at MOGA. And I just think the world of him. He is, man, he's just so smart and so in my court to try to help whatever way he can for us to have a baby. And
Doesn't that make such a difference when you feel like you have those people, like you said, in your court?
yeah. And what I love about Dr. Williams is he has a very similar personality to my husband, which is just very opposite of mine. Just really chill. Just what questions do you have? Just, and I'm more of the high strung kind that plans and has 50 questions. And he does a great job of making me feel like they matter. And, one thing is important to notate is that infertility truly by the American Medical Association is recognized as a disease.
Okay.
And so that is just a huge, thing that I think is very important to know. And then cost is the number one barrier to infertility medical treatment, as insurance law across the U.S. does not have set coverage for that. So some important things there.
I do, I want to ask you, so after you've had Lawson and you're enjoying motherhood and all the blessings that come with it, at what point do you and Taylor say, let's try again? And emotionally, how did you feel about trying again?
Yeah, it was one of those that I was really kind of nervous to even get my mind right to do it because it was a journey at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I was like determined. I mean, you have one child and then you think, oh my gosh, like there's no way I could love another child as much as I love this one, but we love her so much and like we want her to have a sibling. And I just have always seen us at least having 2 kids. And so we started praying about it. We ended up saying, you know what, let's just try. It's going to be a journey. And how that one worked is we actually got pregnant on our own right away. We could not believe it. Wow. I mean, I don't know how. I was just literally jaw to the floor.
Were you continuing the medicine?
No,
this was natural.
Nothing. Yeah, natural. Okay. And so we ended up, we told our family, it was around Christmas time. We told our family, we had like shirts. She had a shirt. It was so cute, like the cutest little reveal. And then we went and realized that there was no heartbeat. Like we were going to have to miscarried. So I miscarried on my own very early on in the pregnancy. And that day was like a blur.
You mind sharing about that?
I mean, it is unfortunate, but I want to share because so many people don't share. And if I had had others that I knew had been through it, at least I probably would have had somebody to call and say, come sit with me, or like, this is, because there's only so much Taylor can do. Like there's only so much that your spouse can really do.
Right.
And the fact that I felt inadequate, like something is wrong with me where I can't carry a baby. And, I just I knew about infertility, but I didn't know what it felt like to have a loss of that kind for a human that I haven't met. But, it was, I remember coming home. Thank goodness Taylor went to the doctor appointment that day. With your second, the parties aren't as extravagant. You don't go all out with invitations. You're lucky to tell a few, that type of thing. So it was really one of those, like, we just knew it was just going to be a quick ultrasound at the beginning. Like, I'll meet with Dr. Williams and we'll keep going.
Right.
And he ended up going, and that was the greatest thing because there was no way I would have been able to drive. I slept in the fetal position literally for the next day. Yeah. And we had some dear friends bring us food, and that was so amazing, and told our small group at church about what we were going through, and everybody was so kind. And thankfully I did have another child at home that I really knew I had to get up. Okay.
Love on.
Yes. You got to keep going. People need you. She needs you.
What was the most comforting thing during that time? I know a lot of women and men too, when a family or loved one, a friend is going through something difficult like that, what is the best thing?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. I think it varies on the individual, but what I found in that time and throughout my time of infertility is people to just recognize it, just say it for what it is. Hey, I don't know what you're feeling, because it's easy for us to get pregnant, but with that being said, I am here for you. And what I've learned, Annabelle, is when people are going through a hard time, whether it's miscarriage, infertility, job loss, whatever, moving into a new house, don't use the words, just let me know what I can do, because nobody, especially someone like me who I love to give and help others, but it's very hard for me to receive. Yeah. And so when people would say, well, let me know what I could do. Well, I probably am not going to say anything.
You're not going to reach out. Yeah.
I burden someone else with that. And so we had a few friends just say, I'm bringing you dinner. Yes. And then what was really, really amazing is August 20th would have been the due date of our first child after the miscarriage. And one couple sent us flowers that morning. And it was just the sweetest gesture a year later that a dear friend of ours would do such a thing for us. Was just very, it still moves me to this day because people's hearts are so good. And
oh man, that is so touching. Yeah, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It does. But at the time, though, I did need some space. Like, I didn't want my phone. I just listened to worship music a lot, cried a lot, and just needed people to let me be and, like, don't need anything from me. Like, I just need to grieve. Yeah. And grief for me looks different. You go through sadness and you want to be busy and then you're just kind of mad. And
it's a cycle.
In that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you've gotten through this time, was there a light bulb moment of, hey, we're gonna try to do this. This is how I envision my family. We're gonna keep moving.
It was immediately okay. Like, what I am one of action. I just I feel like I know something is wrong, with me, and I wanted a safe pregnancy and a healthy baby. Yeah. And to me, that means doing everything I can to figure out what is the issue and how are we going to do our best to treat it. And if the Lord sees fit to allow that medication to work, then so be it. And if he doesn't, then it's just not in his plan. And so I immediately reached out to Dr. Williams again. We actually did multiple rounds of Clomid, higher doses. My numbers were terrible this time. I was a basket case because that medicine, it can really cause a lot of side effects.
Yeah.
And we switched to another medicine that's a different type of ovulation medicine, did that for a few months. We ended up getting pregnant. In the meantime of all this, though, I did have a friend that recommended a fertility doctor, Dr. Amelia Bailey at Fertility Associates of Memphis.
Wow, okay.
So I scheduled the appointment a few months out because it's hard to get in. They stay very, very busy, obviously. And I scheduled the appointment with her with the idea of, okay, at least I could schedule it and then I can always cancel it.
Right.
And so not long before I had the appointment with her, we ended up having like a chemical pregnancy. So another miscarriage very early on. And due to that, because I've had the two, then they were able to do a little bit more blood work once I started to see her. So that's what kind of led me through that journey of a few years of, getting to the place to get to Dr. Bailey as well.
Okay. And so during those times, during those both miscarriages, where did the real support come from? Who were you leaning on during these, really hard, unsettling moments?
So first and foremost, obviously my walk with the Lord. Like, I have never, they say you praise him on the mountaintops and then you praise him, when
in
things
the valleys.
Tough, in the valleys, right? And so, I would pray circles around this child. I had the room and would go in there and just pray and journal. And I look back at those journals and it's some of the sweetest things because it's just how God has come full circle. But the Lord was definitely my rock. And then obviously my husband too. And, we did have a really good support system with my mom and my grandparents and family. And we're just really blessed in that way for sure.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And so you started a new treatment plan, Mollie?
Yeah. So how that worked at Dr. Bailey's, they actually did a lot more testing. Unfortunately, where I worked, we had no infertility coverage. So it was out of pocket. And we spent thousands of dollars.
Again.
Yeah.
So like we're talking thousands of dollars again.
Right? Yeah. The first round was not as much because it was just that 1 month of the medication and just, some of the doctor's appointments and stuff too, but it was nothing outrageous, that a newly married couple couldn't handle. But with Dr. Bailey, we wanted to do really in-depth blood work and we needed to do all these different kind of
get to the root of the issue, right?
Get to the issue. And so if that meant looking in, my fallopian tubes, see if they were open or blocked, or if I had any scar tissue. All these things were necessary to determine really what is the issue, or is it just ovulation. And so throughout all that, they found out I had a blood clotting disorder. It's called antiphosphate antibody syndrome. With that, we had to start a shots of blood thinners. So I started before we got pregnant with the ovulation medicine, and did that every day of my pregnancy with my son, Noah, and then 6 weeks after. And, you know, my stomach would be black and blue, but it was worth every shot. I would do it again in a heartbeat if it meant a healthy baby. But throughout all of that, we found out I had that, and it was just a blessing to be able to treat it and then also conceive and have a healthy pregnancy.
Wow. So pregnancy number 2 was a little bit different than pregnancy number 1. You weren't just kind of on high alert, making sure everything was good. Do you think that humbled you at all? Were you kind of like really present in the second pregnancy there?
Man, you know, it did. When you go through a miscarriage and then you're able to have a baby, there's one picture I have of this most amazing nurse that was there in delivery when my son was born, and holding him for the first time. She grabbed my phone and she took pictures, and I get emotional thinking about it, but tears just poured down my face, you know, and that feeling of hearing your baby cry for the first time after you've experienced such loss. And, you know, they say, welcome to your rainbow baby, because after the storm is a beautiful rainbow. And then we prayed about the name Noah, and I just knew that was his name. And, you know, God was just so faithful in his promises. And it was just, it's a level of gratitude that I will never, you know, words can never do justice to how much I'm so appreciative for the gift of life that we have with these 2 beautiful babies. So
I love that you said Noah's your rainbow babies. Maybe some of our listeners might not know what that means. Can you tell us what a rainbow baby is, Mollie?
Yeah, absolutely. So they say, you know, after a storm comes a beautiful rainbow. Well, the miscarriage is a storm, and so after that it's a beautiful rainbow. And so God's just faithful in his promises. You know, it might look different, but throughout my journey, I feel like even experiencing with the Fertility Associates in Memphis and how wonderful they were with me, and Dr. Williams and everybody just worked together and prayed with me and cried with me. And those nurses were just right there alongside. And it was just truly
like angels, it sounds like.
It really was. Dr. Bailey is literally my angel. I really think she is. Even to this day, she's so supportive of everything I'm doing, and just very, very, very helpful.
So what is it like after years of hardship, finally having your family and seeing those sweet babies and all your dreams, you know, coming to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. There's no words that could describe it, honestly. And, you know, through all that, I started finding my voice, thinking, you know what, like, hold on, why does our employer not offer this in insurance coverage?
Yeah.
Why are people paying thousands of dollars? And, you know, out of the infertility services, really only 3% actually have to utilize IVF, which can be up to $20,000 when you do a full cycle.
Wow.
And and so, you know, insurance not covering that. Could you imagine being a new family and you have some type of issue that is the only option?
No.
You only make, say a couple only makes $35,000 a piece. How are they going to be able to do that? And you have to pay up front, because
doesn't it make you sick thinking about, okay, I want a family more than anything, but these dollar signs are what's going to keep me from.
Right. It's
sickening. Oh, that's horrible.
It's devastating. And then you find companies that charge people up to 25% to do a loan. Yeah. And people are, you know, they want a child, they want a family, and they can't help it. They have a disease.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just absolutely blows my mind, but that's okay. You know, I know instead of sitting back and complaining about it, we decided to do something. And that's kind of where we are today, is doing something.
Girl, I have to ask, because, you know, you've had this other dream on the back burner. Now, we talked about this in the past, that you've told me you wanted to help others who struggle with infertility in some way. And while this global pandemic is going on in 2020, you aren't just sitting down and taking a breather like the rest of the world. Girl, you are on a mission. You got to tell us about the birth of the Tennessee Fertility Advocates Group.
Oh, I'm happy to. I love talking about it, and I hope it encourages at least one person today. But a good friend of mine, Lauren Brown, she and I were friends since we were 5 years old. Obviously, we split off in college, and Infertility actually brought us back together. She was the one that recommended Dr. Bailey and had her own infertility issues. So due to COVID, there was a virtual federal advocacy day, and I was telling her about it. She hopped on, and we got to talk to different legislators. It was very interesting. And after that, we started doing a little research, and Colorado recently passed some infertility legislation that passed in April 1st, that requires insurance coverage for those going through infertility. And there's stipulations about it and stuff. But
what a game changer, though.
Yeah. And so we looked at each other and we see, okay, 19 states in the U.S. have some type of infertility coverage, 13 of those being IVF coverage, and the rest having like fertility preservation. So if someone had cancer, that they could freeze their eggs or they could freeze their sperm and it's covered.
Wow.
So when they want to have their family. So those are 19 states have set it before us, right? Every state looks different in their coverage. It's not a cookie cutter deal for every state. It is very different. But we looked at each other and said, you know what, we're going to do something. And that's exactly what we did. And we started Tennessee Fertility Advocates. And we're really blessed to have a few key people in other states say, you know what, let me help you out. And Representative Carrie Tipper in Colorado connected me with multiple people who connected me with a lot of people in Memphis. Yeah. And boom, there we go. It started. So advocacy efforts growing strong.
Tell us, what is the main mission for the Tennessee Fertility Advocates Group?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. So we have 3 main areas of focus. Okay. The first, obviously, raising awareness and advocacy for infertility as a whole. We want to speak up about it, whether it be through podcasts, through newspaper, through media outlets, through social media, and let people know, A, you're not alone, and then B, like, this is a disease and we didn't ask for it. And then, so raising the advocacy about that, and also destigmatizing infertility. So where people say, you know what, I had that same kind of issue, and it's so nice to know I'm not alone and I can talk about it. And then the second focus is we're trying to help equip advocates to have better discussions with their employers by presenting facts and research and all kinds of data that shows why this helps retain and attract great talent, how it can save the company's money in the long run, as far as helps prevent preemie births when IVF is covered, because you're less likely to transfer more than one embryo. I mean, I could go on and on with that. And then the third one is at a state level. So working with our state legislative and the General Assembly to hopefully present a bill that will hopefully be looked at. So
look out. Okay, so you are working on legislation right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so we are. We are working on legislation. We are trying to figure out if we are going to be able to afford a lobbyist in the state of Tennessee, which they are very costly, but they help tremendously. And we will be talking with insurance companies and all of the things before submitting the legislation. But yes, it is in the works, and we don't know the exact timeline yet. Again, we're trying to figure out the funding and starting a nonprofit and all of the things that come along with that.
So Tennessee Fertility Advocates Group, you're on all the social media channels, and you have your own website, right?
Yeah, www.tnfertilityadvocates.com. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and
you search Tennessee Fertility Advocates and you will find, right?
Yeah, you sure will. And if you just go to our website, it's all down there at the bottom too. You can just click on the little Facebook icon or Instagram or whatever it is you're wanting to find us at. You most definitely can. And we encourage everybody to find us. We post a lot of good, helpful tips about talking to your employer, all the research that we have. Our website has a lot of testimonies. We highlight, one of my favorite things we do is maybe about twice a week, we have a Meet the Advocate story. And so we get with advocates on the front end. Hey, if you want to share your story, we'd love to help you. And so a lot of them are jumping at the opportunity to say, hey, this is my struggle. This is what it looks like, and sharing their stories too. Your voice matters. Every story matters. Getting some of these surveys and reading what the advocates are going through, Annabelle, is enough to break your heart. My few years that I went through and a few $1,000s, yes, it was terrible, but it's nothing compared to those who spent over $100,000 to try to have a family due to a disease that they didn't ask for. And so it weighs on your heart for sure.
I know it makes my heart aches,
Yeah.
as you're telling us about this. This is just there. It makes me remember a conversation that we've had previously where I don't know if it was your words or if you had said it from someone else, but you said you're giving your pain a purpose, and I thought
Yes.
that was so powerful.
Marianne Dunavant with Marcy's Law is incredible, just a great little mentor for me and Lauren. And, she just, with her trauma that she went through, she's like, you have to choose to give your pain a purpose. And so that is just something that we hold on to.
Yeah.
We are a pro-family group of advocates giving our pain a purpose, because if we don't, then what did we go through it for? If we just hold it all in and we don't tell anyone and it just eats away at us. I mean, it's just, at least this way, I feel like even if one person benefits from it, if that means they're willing to say, you know what, my voice matters. And I have 20 other employees with me that are willing to reach out to HR and say, hey, this is important to us. Like, we need to talk to you about it. Here's the facts. Here's the data.
Even that one person is moving
one
the
person.
needle.
Yeah. And if it's an employer, 1,000 people or more, there's an infertility benefits company called Progeny. They step in and they help tremendously. So they can help with the best coverage there is, and they can help have those conversations too. And we can as well. So
Wow.
we're just here as a resource, honestly, is just what we want to be. It's just a resource for those in Tennessee.
I love that you are equipping these women and men with
Yes.
tools and resources to discuss with their employers that need for fertility coverage. So it's just wonderful. And honestly, Molly, our listeners know that Her Town is a podcast about women that are using their talents to impact their community. And I just got to ask you, how do you find the energy to start something like this, Molly? You have 2 small children at home. You're working full time. Where does the energy come from?
I mean, it definitely is something that God has just gifted me with. And he has, after Lauren and I's original conversation and the longing that I felt in my heart for the past few years, which we talked about before, is to do something good from this that we've gone through. And literally, he equips me with, I feel like, just what I need to make it. And this is not something that is about me or her. It is literally about changing for everyone in Tennessee and making this a pro-family state that really sees that. And same for employers too. I mean, it's just from the moment I wake up to when I put my head on the pillow, people always say, how do you do it all? And what I've learned to start telling people, and this is the honest truth, intensity is a blessing and a curse. And I do have a very intense personality. And at times it serves me really well. And at times I'm the hardest on myself, because once I commit to something, I really commit, and I don't want to just go halfway. I want to go 110% and give it all I got. And so with that being said, my life is by no means perfect. There are moments I have breaking points and think, oh my gosh, Lord, like, you have to open the next door. Right now, thinking about funding and all the stuff, I'm like, it's just too much for me to handle. Like, I don't have the money. We don't have a nonprofit yet. How is this going to work out? And really learning to trust in him. And, we have a village of people around us supporting us and advocates who are willing to speak up too. So it definitely is a group approach for sure.
It's awesome. It's really cool seeing all of this come together and just hearing your story. If one of our listeners today is struggling with infertility, can I ask we wrap things up, Molly, what would be your message to him or her, on this journey dealing with these similar thoughts and feelings that you did just a few years ago?
Reach out. My first thing would be, don't suffer in silence, because that is exactly what I did. And it led to therapy appointments, just depression and loneliness and isolation. And I could go on and on about the effects that came from that. And just to try to find others that know or have been through what you're going through, whether that be looking up Tennessee Fertility Advocates on Facebook. There's Memphis Friends Through Infertility. There's a bunch of fertility groups, not just even citywide, that you can get involved in. Fertility Within Reach has been an extremely great resource for Tennessee Fertility Advocates, helping us with the legislation and speaking to your employer and stuff, but also just learning to give yourself a little grace, because I was so hard on myself. I think that I wanted my body to do the things that I thought it was supposed to do. Right. And just learning to give yourself a little bit of grace along the way.
That's so true. Oh, yeah, so true. These are all just such good thoughts. Mollie, thank you for being such a positive light on today's show. We're so thankful for you willing to share your story with us today.
Hey, I'm happy to. And if anybody has any questions about that or, wants to get involved in the advocacy efforts, please let us know, because we would love to have you join in, and please share and spread the word. I'm excited for what's to come and what doors just continue to kind of open up. So thank you for having me.
And the best way to reach you?
Yes, you can go to www.tnfertilityadvocates.com or email us at tnfertilityadvocates@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Mollie. The conversation's been great.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Her Town. Make sure to subscribe to the Maine and Mulberry Her Town podcast for more amazing stories like the one you heard here today. And don't forget to check out our other Maine and Mulberry series at maineandmulberry.com. I'm looking forward to seeing you back here next Tuesday. Until next time, I'm Annabelle.